Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into the mindset of one of the most, impactful entrepreneurs of our time, Jeff Bezos.
Definitely a name everyone knows, and his influence is just undeniable.
Exactly. And our source material for this is this really fascinating interview where he actually laid out what he calls his 5 success secrets.
Which gives us a great framework.
It does. And our mission here, it isn't just to recap his business achievements. We want to go deeper.
Right. Beyond the headlines.
Yeah, into how he thinks, how he makes those crucial decisions, the principles he actually uses to build things. It feels like this stuff applies way beyond just Amazon or Blue Origin.
Well, absolutely. The real gold is in those underlying principles, the mental models. That's where you find the universal stuff about like innovation, leadership, how to tackle really, really big challenges.
Okay, so let's kick things off. The first principle he mentions, it's pretty famous now, regret minimization. Where did that idea come from?
Well, it really crystallized for him at a pivotal moment. He had this secure, very well-paying job on Wall Street.
Cushy setup.
Totally. But then he spots this data point the internet is growing at, like 2,300% a year. An insane number.
Wow. Okay.
So he's faced with this huge dilemma. Stay safe or take this massive leap.
Yeah.
And the way he framed it, famously, was asking himself, and this is a direct quote, "When I'm 80 years old, will I regret not having tried?"
That's such a powerful question, isn't it? Makes you think about your own big decisions.
It really does. It reframes everything.
And it seems to cut right through that fear of failure that holds so many people back. How does he actually view failure within this framework?
Well, his argument is that we tend to overestimate the risk of trying something new. We focus on what could go wrong if we try.
Sure, that feels natural.
But, and this is the key part, we underestimate the risk of inaction, of not trying. That inaction, he argues, can lead to the biggest, most painful regrets down the line.
So the regret of not doing something can actually be worse than the regret of trying and failing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He said even if Amazon had totally failed, he would have been proud he took the shot. He's very clear. Failure is part of the process. If you're innovating, you will fail.
Right. It's unavoidable.
The trick, he says, is to fail quickly, learn everything you can from it, and just keep moving. See failure as data, basically, not as like a final judgment.
That's a great transition, actually, to the next big idea. His compass for innovation isn't chasing competitors, it's customer obsession. Why put the customer so squarely at the center?
He draws a really sharp contrast in the interview. A lot of companies, he says, are competitor-focused. They're always looking over their shoulder, reacting.
Playing defense.
Yeah. But customer-obsessed companies, they get to be proactive. And the reason, he says, is because customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied.
That's a great line.
Isn't it? They always want things faster, cheaper, with more selection. It's a constant, reliable source of inspiration if you're truly listening.
So it's not just about surveys then, it's deeper.
Oh, much deeper. It's about really understanding their underlying needs. Sometimes needs they can't even articulate themselves. Think about Prime shipping.
The perfect example. Nobody was marching in the streets demanding 2-day shipping, were they?
Exactly. No one explicitly asked for it. But Amazon deduced that deep, unspoken desire for more convenience, more speed. They anticipated it.
And by building it, they didn't just meet a need. They fundamentally changed the game. They created a new expectation.
Precisely. They worked backward from what they believe the ideal customer experience could be, even if customers weren't asking for that specific thing yet.
So the takeaway for anyone listening seems pretty clear. If you focus on the customer, you will always be heading in the right direction. Competitors change, tech changes.
But that customer desire for better is constant. It's a reliable true north.
Okay, focusing on the customer like that, anticipating needs, often requires taking a longer view than just the next quarter, right? Which brings us nicely to secret number 3. Long-term thinking.
Yes. And this is where you really see Bezos, the dreamer, maybe. Especially when you look at Blue Origin.
His space company. It seems like such a massive, almost sci-fi undertaking.
It is. And it's rooted, he says, in his childhood watching the moon landing.
Yeah.
That sense of possibility.
Sure.
But the vision for Blue Origin isn't just, joyrides for billionaires. It's much bigger. He sees it as building essential infrastructure in space for future generations.
Infrastructure. Like roads and power grids, but in space.
Sort of, yeah. The foundational stuff needed so that other entrepreneurs and future generations can build amazing things in space. Similar, he says, to how he built Amazon on the infrastructure of the early internet.
Okay, I see the parallel, but what's the ultimate goal?
It's actually about Earth. solving long-term resource problems here by eventually moving heavy polluting industries off planet, preserving Earth as the gem it is.
That is definitely thinking long term. And it connects to something else he said that really stood out, being willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time.
That's crucial.
It sounds noble, like a visionary trait, but how do you balance that with, not just being stubborn or ignoring valid criticism?
That's the tightrope walk, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think his approach is about filtering. Is the misunderstanding coming from short-term market fluctuations or press cycles focused on quarterly profits? Or is it genuine feedback that maybe your core assumptions are wrong?
So distinguishing signal from noise again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He points to Amazon's early days. Lots of skepticism, lots of pressure to show profits immediately. But they stuck to the long-term vision of reinvesting in growth and customer experience.
Even when Wall Street was screaming.
Even then, his point is stark. If you want to do anything new or different, you will be misunderstood. If you can't tolerate that, you won't last. You need conviction in that long-term view.
That kind of conviction, sticking to your guns for years, it must come at a personal cost, right? Did he talk about sacrifice?
She did. He was quite candid about, the incredibly long hours, missing family things, the sheer uncertainty of it all, especially early on.
Yeah, the standard entrepreneurial story, but maybe amplified.
Right. But here's the twist he added. He said those things only feel like sacrifices if you don't believe in the mission.
Oh, okay.
If you're deeply passionate about what you're building, it doesn't feel like a sacrifice. It just feels like what you need to do. The passion fuels you through the hard times.
Which connects directly to another interesting idea he shared. He apparently dislikes the phrase work-life balance, calls it debilitating.
Yeah, he prefers work-life harmony.
Harmony. What's the distinction for him?
It's about integration, not separation. He sees it as a circle, a positive feedback loop. If work is energizing and fulfilling,
You bring that energy home.
exactly, you're a better partner, parent, friend. And conversely, if you're happy and supported at home,
You bring that strength to work.
right, it's about making them fuel each other. Rather than seeing them as competing forces you have to rigidly balance. His core message is pretty blunt. If you hate your work, no amount of balance will fix that. You need to find work that fuels you.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, moving on to fourth secret. This one feels very Amazonian, bias for action. He has this specific rule about decision-making, doesn't he? The 70% rule.
Yes. Most decisions, he says, should be made with 70% of the information you wish you had.
Only 70%? That sounds risky. Why not wait until you're more certain?
Because in his view, if you wait for 90% certainty, you're probably moving too slow, especially in tech or any fast-moving field.
Speed is that critical.
Speed is often more valuable than perfection. He argues that paralysis is far more dangerous than mistakes. You can usually correct a mistake if you make a decision and move.
But you can't get back the time you lost by not deciding at all.
Precisely. Inaction is often the silent killer of opportunity.
This must tie into that famous Amazon principle, disagree and commit.
Absolutely. Encourage debate. Get the viewpoints out there. But once a decision is made, even if you disagreed, you commit fully to making it successful. No passive aggression, no, I told you so.
And he also distinguishes between two types of decisions, right? Type 1 and type 2.
Yes, this is a really useful framework. Type 1 decisions are the big ones. They're consequential and largely irreversible, like walking through a one-way door.
Okay. High stakes. Those need careful deliberation.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You need more data, more debate for those. But most decisions, he argues, are type 2. They're like two-way doors. Meaning you can make the decision, walk through the door, see what happens. And if it's not working out, you can usually walk back out. You can reverse the decision relatively easily.
Okay. Lower stakes, reversible.
Exactly. But the trap, he says, is that leaders often treat type 2 decisions like type 1. They overanalyze, delay, demand certainty for things that are actually easily correctable.
And that slows everything down.
Cripples speed, yeah. Recognizing which door you're facing is key.
Thinking about leadership more broadly, his style must have changed massively from the early garage days to running a global behemoth. How did he describe that evolution?
He talked about a really significant shift. Initially, maybe like a lot of founders, he felt he had to be the smartest person in the room, have all the answers.
Right, the hero founder model.
But true scale, he realized, comes from shifting your goal to creating a room full of smart people, building systems, establishing clear principles, creating a culture that can thrive even without you making every call.
So empowering others.
And crucially, he said, hiring people better than you and giving them the freedom to excel Letting go of that need to be the smartest one. That's real leadership leverage.
Now, on that leadership point, Amazon's culture, it's often described as demanding. Bezos himself sometimes called a tough boss. How did he respond to that kind of criticism?
He addressed it pretty head on. He said, high standards can be uncomfortable. He didn't shy away from that.
Okay.
But, he added, high standards are what make greatness possible. So there's a deliberate focus on excellence, which can feel intense.
But did he acknowledge any need for, say, empathy alongside those high standards?
He did. He mentioned his own learning curve as a leader, recognizing that over time, empathy became increasingly important alongside the drive for results. But it also links back to being willing to be misunderstood, right? Prioritizing high performance and the long-term mission might not always make you the most popular boss in the short term.
That makes sense. And dealing with that external view, the constant scrutiny, the criticism, how does someone operating at that level even process it all?
His approach sounds almost clinical. He views criticism as data.
Data, not personal attacks.
He tries not to take it personally. The goal is to analyze it, separate the signal from the noise. Is this criticism valid? Does it align with our core values and mission? If yes, examine it, learn from it.
And if not?
If it's just noise or driven by agendas that don't align with the mission, you have to let it go. He stressed, you can't be driven by external approval. Your compass has to be internal, the mission, the customer.
Let's talk failure again, because it seems so core to this. The Fire Phone is the classic example people bring up. Huge investment, public flop.
A massive commercial failure, no doubt. But it's actually a perfect case study for how they view failure internally. Bezos explicitly says failure isn't just like tolerated at Amazon. It's required if you're going to make bold bets.
Required. That sounds counterintuitive.
Because if you're not failing sometimes, you're probably not swinging big enough. And the interesting part about the Fire Phone, many of the learnings the technologies developed for it, even the mistakes made,
Fed into something else.
directly led to the success of Alexa and the Echo devices. They wouldn't exist in the same way without the Fire Phone failure. So, as he put it, failure and success are twins. You can't separate them.
Wow. Okay, that perspective really shifts things. Which brings us to the fifth and final secret. Thinking beyond yourself. He's accumulated staggering wealth. How does he actually think about money?
He seems very pragmatic about it. He describes money as a resource or fuel for ideas, even a toolbox.
Not an end in itself, not a scoreboard.
Apparently not. For him, it's an enabler. It allows him to pursue those really bold, long-term visions like Blue Origin that require massive capital investment over decades. It's about what the resources allow you to do.
But he has faced criticism over the years, especially earlier on, about the scale or speed of his philanthropy. How does he explain his approach there?
His philosophy seems to be build infrastructure first, create the large-scale systems, Amazon, AWS, Blue Origin, that can have a massive impact and generate resources. Then deploy those resources strategically for maximum leverage.
So build the engine, then use the engine's power.
Exactly. He points to things like the Bezos Earth Fund or the Day One Fund, which focus on systemic solutions for climate change and homelessness. The idea is build something that matters, then use your resources to amplify impact. Build the platform, then use the platform.
When you think about legacy, what does he hope people remember? Is it his name, the company's?
His answer in the interview was really striking. He said, basically, I don't care if they remember my name. Yeah. I care if humanity is better off because of the systems I helped build. It's about enabling progress, easier commerce, cloud computing for innovators, access to space. The focus is entirely on the impact, the enablement. Legacy, he said, should be a byproduct, not the goal.
That's a powerful distinction. Looking even further ahead, like 50, 100 years, what kind of future does he envision?
He paints a pretty extraordinary picture. Huge leaps in AI, in medicine, renewable energy transforming life on Earth.
Okay, the optimistic tech view.
Yes, but also, crucially, millions of people living and working in space. Not just visiting, but actually having industries, research, manufacturing off Earth.
To take the strain off our planet.
Precisely. To preserve Earth. It sounds like science fiction, as he admits, but then he adds, everything sounds like science fiction until it's not.
He has a point there. So this final secret, thinking beyond yourself, it's really about contributing something lasting, enabling future generations.
Exactly. It's about making the pie bigger for everyone, leaving the world more capable than you found it.
Okay, drilling down to something really personal from the interview. If he could pass only one lesson onto his own children, what would it be?
His answer was incredibly concise and profound. Be bold in your choices, but kind in your actions.
Boldness and kindness.
Yes. He explained that boldness creates progress, it pushes boundaries, but kindness, that creates meaning. Without kindness, success feels hollow.
And kindness isn't just grand gestures.
No, he emphasized it starts small. Really listening to someone, saying thank you sincerely, admitting when you're wrong, the everyday stuff.
Powerful combination. Okay, one last question, circling all the way back to the beginning. Regret minimization. Looking back now, does he have any personal regrets?
It was a very honest answer. He said, yes, his regrets are mostly about relationships.
Really? Not business decisions?
No. Times he maybe wasn't fully present with his family or didn't nurture friendships the way he perhaps should have. It was a real reminder, he said, that at the end of the day, the people you love matter more than any company.
Wow. That brings it all home, doesn't it?
It really does.
So just to recap the 5 big ideas we've explored. Regret minimization.
Customer obsession.
Long-term thinking.
Bias for action.
And thinking beyond yourself.
And he sort of summed up his whole philosophy for living, which felt like a great capstone. He said, live life with intention. Don't drift. Don't let fear decide for you. Choose boldly, focus relentlessly on what matters, and remember, you get to write your own story.
An incredible framework to think about. What a deep dive. And maybe for you, listening right now, here's a final thought to chew on. How might applying just one of these principles, maybe regret minimization, maybe bias for action, how might that change a decision you're wrestling with right now? Maybe it's time to minimize that potential regret, maximize your courage, and always try to think a little bit beyond just yourself. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.